Hello and welcome to Leagues Behind, the official vodcast of the Arena Gauntlet League, looking back on our past tournament offerings and seeing what worked and what didn't, with the benefit of hindsight and a lot of time passed. I'm Christopher York. I am the current tournament organizer and the founder of the AGL. And today I have a couple of very special guests. We have our feature match commentator and 2023 Player of the Year, Richard Kay. Hello, Richard.
How's it going?
And we have our 2024 Player of the Year tournament winner, Zach C. Welcome, Zach.
Hi.
So today we're talking about both tournaments because, in a way, right, most of our tournaments are 6-week offerings. The Player of the Year are only 3-week offerings. And it seems to me like we could benefit from having a sort of round table with multiple Player of the Year winners to discuss how these tournaments went down and how we could improve upon them. Because sooner rather than later, we are going to have the 2025 Player of the Year tournament. And so we want to sort of like take a look back at where we've been and see what we could do better. Now, just some background for people who don't know. I believe that up until 2023, the Player of the Year tournament was a largely small and deeply underfunded, more or less a side event for bragging rights to see who was the best on the server for the year. This is the first year, 2023, where we had 24 players. So let's start with 2023. Richard, what can you tell us about your memories of the event itself?
I mean, I remember the sealed portions.
Yeah.
I can't remember how the packs, the sets were chosen, but I remember like them being pretty low powered. They weren't like sets. It wasn't like just a group of sets we had played with for the last year. It was just
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there was some thought put behind it, but it seemed just to be kind of random sets. I
Yeah.
remember the power level being pretty low, which I didn't mind, but I had some interesting decks in the sealed portion of that one. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was the quarterfinals, and I think that what we had from the 24 players, we had 4 pods of 6 people who we got to play in a round robin part of the tournament. And I have here a list of the themes, right? So we had Prolific, which was pod A, and that was a combination of war and all will be one. And so the idea there was that there were 2 sets where counters mattered, and Proliferate was a supported mechanic, so you could add more counters to your planeswalkers and whatnot and make more poison counters. Pod B was Recycled, so you could have Amonkhet Remastered and Ikoria, and those were both sets that focused on cycling. Pod 3 were Masterpieces, that's Kaladesh Remastered and Brothers War, both very artifact-heavy sets, so some synergies there. And Pod D was called Kicked, which was Dominaria and Zendikar, Zendikar Revisited, I think they're called. And
Zendikar Rising.
Zendikar Rising, thank you. And both of those sets had Kicker as a mechanic. And so this was, I'm going to take the heat for this one because this was my pitch. It was the so-called Omen Path pitch. Back then, they were just starting to discuss the idea of making interplanar travel possible for non-planeswalking characters in the Magic the Gathering universe. And basically it's like, well, what if we take an old set, which, most people have played and solved, and we mix it 50-50 with another set that we've played and solved, and without making a whole, 6-week tournament for it, what if we use this for the quarterfinals sealed event for our best players and see if they can, discover the unexplored synergies between these sets, which don't normally appear organically in any kind of draft environment together. So what pod were you in, Richard?
So I was playing with Amonkhet and Ikoria, which I mean, there wasn't really. I mean, I know cycling was in both sets, but other than that, there wasn't really anything to tie them together. The cycling was like the cycling matters cards were in completely different colors, um, so there was no really through line. I mean, looking at my deck here, it's just a green black deck. I have like three rares. One of them is a triome. I got three honey mammoth and like some black removal and like some like recursion. Basically, you know, green black, just play big stuff, recur your graveyard as a resource, destroy some creatures. Like I had a Cheville, which was the Golgari Mythic from Ikoria, which was pretty nice.
I remember Shovel.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was okay playing with these sets. Maybe, especially like the Artifact one and the Dominaria and Zendikar one, I might have been less happy to have to play a bunch of matches with those. Like here, like the cards were just fine. Like cards were good. I didn't mind. Yeah, I had a pretty okay experience with that.
So you were in a pod with the Dominaria United League winner, the Set Wars League winner, number 4, which was Caleb. You had won the Shadows over Innistrad Remastered League, which I think was a
that sounds
3-weeker, right?
Of course, yeah. So that was my thing.
I don't even need to say it. The Lord of the Rings League winner, and the 2 players that had the the second highest average number of points and the third highest cumulative number of points. So other players and other pods were last year's, like 2022's Player of the Year, Cody Race. Hot off Set Wars wins. We had the rest of Mount Rushmore, so we had Jeremy and Maxime and Johnny. From that, we had the one All Will Be One League winner, Jordan. We had the Neo 2 partners, partnership of Chris R. and John P. And then the rest, I think, no, we had Mom League winner, Adam S., Bro League winner, Daniel G., and, Daniel G. had multiple slots, so we can't count him multiple times.
Yeah.
And the rest were all roll downs. So I guess that what you're saying is that this, just smashing 2 sets together with this one point of contact between them wasn't enough in your mind to have a sort of dynamic gameplay experience. It wasn't a challenge that was fitting for the best of our server.
Yeah, it just seemed kind of like the sets didn't seem to have any through line. I imagine like with maybe, especially with like the artifact sets, maybe that would have been a bit more prominent. But here, like, I like both sets. Cards were good. Like, I don't have any complaints about the gameplay. It's just if you were aiming for an experience that was evocative of something coming together to form like something greater than the sum of its parts, it was basically it was just the sum of the parts, which it wasn't bad though. Like I have no problem with playing those sets. So
It was serviceable, I guess, but not exceptional
yeah.
as a play experience. Zach, let's go to you now. We're going to sort of go back and forth because it was also a 24-player tournament. You also had quarterfinals of 6 players each. It was a little bit different in 2024, however. Can you tell us a little bit about the quarterfinals in the 2024 Player of the Year tournament? I just did some scatting there, some random scatting.
Got it.
No problem. Yeah, so what we had is by now we had enough packs to do a kind of a singleton chaos draft roto, if you will, so that everyone's pool was all made of 6 unique packs available on Arena. So I'm trying to open up here. I have.
Yeah, I can read the rules if you want. So each pod will snake draft the 36 different sealed packs available on Arena. There were 36 packs available at the time that were unique. Each of the 6 players in the pod got 6 unique packs and got to sort of decide which were most powerful. And, you know, in the same way that OTJ, right, had kind of shown us that there's a market value on packs that can be fairly determined. And I guess that your quarterfinals also showed which packs were the most powerful. What were your 6 packs that you chose? Do you know?
Yeah, I do. So that's what I just pulled up, and I was in the same pod as Richard. So
Oh,
I know Richard's strategy. Yeah, it kind of snake drafted down. I don't know if this video can be included in, but I know Richard's strategy was to grab everything with the bonus sheet. So he started off with Mom, Strixhaven, Brothers War, and
more
then
rares being better
the
than less
remastered.
rares. Yeah.
Yeah, more rares is better,
Yeah.
especially in sealed. For me, um, I went for alchemy, I guess, with Baldur's Gate, and then sets that I enjoyed. Um,
You're tilting me, Zach. You're just tilting me. So you're saying that alchemy was the secret juice that got you to the semifinals. You're basically admitting to doping here on the air.
yeah, like this guy.
Your enemies are not using non-alchemy cards. They've got no chance, right?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure if it would even be considered alchemy, but at the time it was like HPG. I think it was a little bit like pushed at the time, but now it's like super less powerful than everything that's been coming out recently. But that was my strategy, I guess. Cards, sets that I enjoyed out of the 36. So I got Woe 1, Kaldheim, M21, Guilds of Ravnica. The last two were kind of slim pickings, I guess.
So tell us about your awesome deck. What did you cobble together? What were the combos that you were most excited about or proud about?
Remember, so I have a black-green deck with Vraska from Phyrexia will be one at the top end, which often just won the game by itself.
What I'm hearing here is that going Golgari in the quarterfinals is a key to becoming Player of the Year. This is important information for our watchers and our viewers are going to want to hear that.
And spoilers, I also played a Golgari-based deck in my semifinals as well.
Grind him out. Richard, do you remember your pool from this quarterfinals? Because you had the benefit of playing in both tournaments, right?
Yeah, so I'm looking at my deck here, and I tried to go for the bonus sheet strategy. I mean, this deck was a mess. I ended up playing blue-red. I think I was splashing Angrath, the Flame Chained, which was in Rivals of Ixalan.
Yeah.
So, which was like one of my best cards, and that was from like the last pick of the entire draft, I think. I had a Chrome Host Siege Shark, and then a bunch of not great cards. I guess Collective Defiance also. It wasn't a good deck. It just didn't have the strength of some of the other decks. I will say that I didn't really like the concept of like everybody's playing with a pool made up of different sets. Didn't really jive with me for whatever reason. But deck was bad. I defaulted into the second round even though I went 1-4 because our pod was like all 1-4s and 4-1s, I think. So I ended up making it to the second round even though I didn't really earn my spot there.
You squeaked into the semis.
Oh yeah.
So look, having been in both, which quarterfinals was preferred by you? Was it the take two sets and mash them together, or was it the sort of Roto style choose your own chaos pool?
I mean, I'm a bit biased by the results, but I really didn't like the concept of like drafting different sets and everybody opens different sets. I think it should at least be on like, we're working with the same sets here at the very least. Would have been, I think, is preferable to me.
Zach, do you have any thoughts on this?
And yeah, to touch on that, I sort of enjoyed the extra element of the drafting the packs, though at the same time, like at the end of the day, a Guilds of Ravnica pack could like be better than a Mom pack. It just depends what you open. So
Yeah.
So I remember at the time being a little bit ambivalent of like which set I would pick because it's kind of up in the air what I get, and I remember wishing that I could see like that we could generate 36 pack and then start battling for specific synergies and potential pools and builds.
Yeah.
I thought that would be interesting.
Like
and
open-faced packs, right?
yeah.
Just open the packs
Yeah.
themselves. That might be interesting. That might be an idea for 2025 that we want to keep in our back pocket. That does seem interesting, right? It's a bit more of a directed draft than a blind draft. It might take more
It's a
time.
trade-off also, that too, right? And how much, like having too much information, is that like a burden on the players?
Right.
You know, how much time do they want to spend brainstorming before even getting to play with their pools?
Well, it is the player of the year tournament, Zach. So, and only the best of the best can survive. So maybe it's not too much to ask this level of devotion from our players.
Right. And I do vaguely remember while building my decks for both the quarterfinal and the semifinals, since it was open pools, I remember building my opponent's decks and then trying to see, okay, how does that influence like potentially my build? But I remember only doing it for one of the 2 rounds because for the other 2 rounds I just didn't have time or like
Yeah,
didn't care.
but you did put in some homework though, which is good, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess that paid off. All right, so let's go now to the semifinals. Again, we'll start with the 2023 semifinals. So in both tournaments, right, we only lose the bottom 2 from the quarterfinals, and the top 4 from each pod move up, and they are combined with the survivors from the other pods and mixed into 2 different pods. We call these Pod E and Pod F for the 2023 semifinals. And just like in the quarterfinals, we had another round robin sealed. This time Pod E, their theme was Eternalized, so they had Amonkhet Remastered and War, and this was more of a thematic overlap because, of course, the War storyline had the forces of Bolas coming to Ravnica from Amonkhet, and both sets had that kind of theme going on. I think that Eternalized was there were some mechanics involved with zombies and graveyards in both, and Pod F had historical as their through line, which was Kaladesh Remastered and Dominaria, and here the idea was historical as a set of cards, probably artifacts and legendaries and that kind of thing, as their connecting tissue. Once again, Richard, probably not a lot new to say about this since it's just more of the same that happened in the quarterfinals, but do you have any stories from the semis or any thoughts about the semis?
So I was playing with the Amonkhet and War of the Spark.
Yeah.
This was actually a very memorable deck, just because it was very grindy. So I had no bombs. I was playing a black-blue deck, and I was splashing for a few white cards, 3 white cards. So I had no bombs. I didn't have all of my removal was conditional, but what I had was just like card draw and recursion, like forever. Though like none of my creatures were very good, so it was just like I was recurring like medium creatures and like trying to draw cards and find ways to win. And it was some of the most disciplined Magic I've honestly ever played. Like some of the games where I would be just holding things for turn after turn because I knew I had to extract the maximum value out of every single card in my deck because my power level was so flat. So I remember feeling pretty like it was pretty rewarding to win with that deck because it was so difficult to play it because it was just like I said, like I couldn't just play out my Gravedigger and just get back whatever was in the graveyard. Like there was maybe only like 3 or 4 creatures in my entire deck that were actually going to be good if I got them back with my Gravedigger. It was super grindy. I had 2 Bond of Insight, which is that It's a sorcery from War of the Spark where both players mill 4, and then I return 2 instant or sorceries from my graveyard to my hand, and then I had 2 Wander in Death, which is a cycling card that is also like return 2 creatures to your hand. So it was just like loop to loop of like medium cards just coming back to my hand from the graveyard over and over. So it took forever to win, and like I said, I had to extract maximum value out of every single card and like be possibly more patient than I've ever been with my interactive spells. But it got there, and it was ultimately rewarding, but some very, very tense games that could have gone either way.
Just in case people are curious, are any of those matches archived on your YouTube channel?
No, I wasn't recording just my like regular matches at that.
Because that sounds like
So that
something I'd
anytime.
like to watch in retrospect. It sounds very rewarding, and I gotta say, I'm pleased to hear that you felt that you as a player were challenged at the highest level in this tournament, because that's the point, right? The point is that all these little choices should matter at this level of play. You're facing up against a year's worth of players who fought very hard to get where they're at, and who are also gunning for you the same way that you're gunning for them. So that's really rewarding to hear. Zach, let's go now to the 2024 semifinals. Once again, it's a very different kind of show, right? Can you tell us about the lineup for the 2024 semifinals?
Yeah, for the semifinals in 2024, it was a 9-pack seal, like chaos sealed, with the 1 pack from each leagues in 2024. So there was Woe, Ixalan Remastered, Lost Cavern of Ixalan, Khans of Tarkir, Murder at
Karlov Manor.
the Manor.
Yeah.
I don't know what the K stands for anymore.
Order in Chaos was the other one.
Oh no,
right?
no, the K inside of MKM.
Oh,
Karlov.
Karlov.
Order in Chaos.
Yeah.
Jordan's baby, I
Jordan's
believe.
baby, yeah.
Outlaw at Thunder Junction, Modern Horizon 3, and Bloomborough. And so, one thing I wanted to touch on was both the quarterfinal and the semifinal for like 2024 were basically chaos sealed. Though one of them was a 6-pack 40 card deck, and the other was a 9-pack 60 card deck. So now it's coming back to me. I remember I built everybody's decks for this 6-pack 40 card deck, but not for the 9-packs, because that's way too much work, and it wasn't that worth it. But anyways, and I remember for that one, especially because Adam was also running the saloon where we had to guess, or I don't know, foretell who was gonna win every pod.
Mm.
And I remember opening my pool and not being the most excited for it, especially after scouting a little bit the other players. But I remember I won the little side event for predicting who every winner of the pods would be. I got everyone right.
I remember that, and you always bet on
600
yourself, right?
No, that's the thing. For the semifinals, I didn't bet on myself. I bet on, I want to say Jordan. Yeah, it was Jordan. Jordan had a busted pool, and Jordan's really good. And he did take that pod, but I managed to squeeze in 4th place. So one thing I wanted to mention is I really, even though it was chaos sealed, which there's a lot of variance to it, it was nice that it wasn't just like, you gotta like win out to make the next round. So like Richard was able to make it in with a 1-4 in the quarterfinals with not his favorite pool, and I was able to squeak in here with a 4-3, 4th place in the semifinals. So at least that was nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's not altogether too punishing, although for everybody who squeaks in, there's somebody who gets squeaked out, right? Who has a different and opposite story that might contain more salt on the other end. So I take it like getting to the semifinals of the Player of the Year tournament has got to feel pretty great and I would say just barely missing it has to be kind of a little bit rough. I think that, I mean, you can tell me what your thoughts are on this, but the idea really is to have these rounds of elimination sort of mount the tension, right? Leading up to the finals, right? You should feel this sort of sense like, okay, I've survived 2 rounds of cuts, and now, I'm on the top layer of the cake. I could take it all, right? Did you feel any tension as you managed to squeak into the finals, Zach? Did you feel like, here, this is finally it. I've got to really concentrate now. It's all or nothing.
Yeah, I really appreciated the structure, how it goes from 24 to 16 to 8. We're only shaving off, like, well, I guess in the semifinal you're cutting half the remaining player base, but um, uh, yeah, it made it an enjoyable tournament for most, even for those like most people made. I mean, 2/3 of the people got to play, um, 5 best of 3 and then +7. So I like that aspect of it, and you're not just doomed with if your one pool is not the best of the best. You get to roll the dice more than once if you make it that far. Yeah.
Okay. All right, then, Richard, let's go back now to the 2023 tournament again. We were looking at the Mega Draft finals. So here, what I think happened is that we took all the different packs that were used in the sort of combined sealed quarter and semifinals and made a Mega Draft out of 8 different packs to create a 60-card deck, going from War of the Spark to Dominaria to Kaladesh Remastered to Amonkhet Remastered to All Be One to Zendikar Rising to Brothers War, and then finally to Ikoria. Right, so in other words, a sort of tour
Was that the
de
order?
force.
Was that the order of the Mega Draft?
I believe it was, yeah.
Okay.
It was kind of a tour de force of a lot of the early league offerings online. How did your Mega Draft go, and what was the feeling that you had when you finally made it in? Were you leading in the semifinals, or were you just like Zach? Did you squeak in?
I think I was middle of the road.
Hmm.
So I wasn't leading. I wasn't behind. I think I was somewhere in the middle. But yeah, so the deck was. I mean, it was strong. If War of the Spark was the first pack, then I got pretty lucky because I opened the Enter the God Eternals as the first card.
Ooh.
I did end up going blue-red, and I splashed in the Enter the God Eternals. Looking at some of the rares here, I got I think it's called Yidaro, the cycling dinosaur.
Oh, Yidaro.
I had a Koth.
That's
I had a
right.
Koth from the from All Would Be One. I had a bunch of I had a Combat Celebrant from Amonkhet, Urkel Master Wizard, Vindictive Flamestoker, which was a rare also from Phyrexia All Will Be One. Had cheap interaction, had some card draw, had some flyers. It worked out pretty nice. One of the matches was a feature match. It was only the last round that was a feature match for me, but I think that match pretty displayed what the deck was doing as far as the power of some of the cards.
Do you remember the gamut of players you had to sort of run through and the stuff that they were running, or is that all just a
In the top 8?
Yeah.
I know I think I faced Jordan in the second round, and he was also playing a blue-red. And I know I faced Dan A. Beatdownbringer in the last round. I'm not sure who I played in the first round. It might have been Justin P., but I don't recall. But I know the final was against Dan A. because that was a recorded feature match, and he had a Boros deck, which was like running 20 lands, and he had like a bunch of cycling, so he had like a cycling sub-theme, because he got some cool cycling stuff.
So in the history of Mega Drafts, we've sort of gone anywhere between 5 packs and 9 packs. we've sort of settled on 6 as the sort of golden mean, right? The right amount for making a 60 card deck and draft. 8's a little bit on the heavy side, right? It takes a little more time, takes a little more endurance. What's your thought on 8-pack mega drafts? Yay or nay?
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a test of endurance for sure. Even 6 packs, like partway through, I'm like, dang, we're only halfway through. Like like you've basically drafted a normal draft of 3 packs, and then you're halfway through. 8, I think, is maybe something we would want to avoid. It's a little much. It's a lot for the commentary too. Having been on both ends of it, it's a lot to keep track of, also, and a lot of cuts to make at the end as well. So. But I mean, if your goal is to challenge us and to, make us use all of our drafting and deck building skills, then that did occur, I would say. But I think 6 is a very, very good way to test that as it stands. 6 packs.
Yeah, and I think Zach, to go back to the 2024 Player of the Year tournament, I think did we go that way in your Mega Draft Finals? Now, actually, I'm looking here. And I see that actually it's 7 packs.
7 packs. So I think we
slightly lower.
we cut off some of the fat from the semifinals, but we kept I believe all the actual new releases on Arena in 2024.
Right. So we cut Ixalan Remastered, we cut Order and Chaos, and kept the rest. So every new set release. So, in other words, your Mega Draft was a tour de force of all the WotC releases from that year, starting with Wilds of Eldraine, Lost Caverns of Ixalan, Khans of Tarkir, Murders at Karloff Manor, Outlaws of Thunder Junction, Modern Horizons 3, and then weirdly ending with a pack of Bloomburrow, which I'm sure fit with very little else that went on before it. What was your experience of the 7-pack Mega Draft and this mixture of sets in particular?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm also of the opinion that 6-pack is probably the sweet spot. 7's probably fine here. I do see like Khans, and I remember like Khans of Tarkir was a bit of an outlier in power level, and so I think we could have done with 6. Going forward with more like a quicker release schedule, I don't know. I would try to avoid like in the 8 range or 9.
Yeah.
if at all possible. But I think that's the way to do it. It's all the sets from the year, all the big tournaments, all the 6-week leagues. Throw them in at least. I see here we have LCIs. No, that's a main set. What am I saying? Yeah, these are all 6-week leagues, so
so
I wouldn't have it any other way.
There was a thematic reason for including 7 packs, right? It wasn't just sadism, right? In terms of like making the top 8 draft the maximum number of packs before they pass out, but the idea, the problem that people had, I think, looking back on the 2023 tournament, was that these sets don't represent the journey that we went through as players to qualify for this tournament. And so there's a concentrated effort in the 2024 tournament to sort of make the structure of the event mirror the previous year of play.
And I think that's a very good step, good improvement. I just got tripped up. I thought I had read Ixalan Remastered, but no, that wasn't part of the Mega Draft Finals. So I think the LC got it right in 2024.
Okay. So can you tell us about your experience in the top 8? Like, what was your deck like? Who did you face? Any interesting matches? And then your ultimate triumph. How did that present itself to you?
So, what got me there was red white aggro, go wide, mass pump, scurry of gremlins, won and stole a lot of games. It was great. My only feature match was also the finals against.
I think it was Thomas. But...
Thomas, yes.
And those we can find on Richard's channel, presumably.
And
Absolutely.
yes, very close game. I remember it came down to a fight spell where I was able to pump my creature larger than his and just 2-for-1 him, and then top deck a Scurry of Gremlin somewhere along the way to close out the game. But it was really, really close.
This is recent enough in my memory that I can. I think that Scurry of Gremlins was your MVP, right? It got you quite a few games on the way through.
A lot, yes.
Good old Modern Horizons 3.
Exactly, right? I worried of like, oh, I don't have any energy. How good is it? But it still makes 2/1/1s, and if you have 4 creatures, though I often had 8, you can give your whole team +2/+0 and haste.
Well, look, if I'm going to go back and revisit this idea of, smacking two sets together, one of the ones I would do would be, Energies featuring Kaladesh Remastered and Modern Horizons 3. I think that might be a fun format to explore. One really underpowered set, one really overpowered set, and both kind of bringing energy into the mix. I don't know.
And at the end of the day, the Eldrazi will probably just eat everyone.
Seems to be the case. Okay, so let's talk now. Finally, we're almost done describing the tournaments, and I'm going to get into your opinions on, how we could have done it better. First of all, let's go to the prizing for the 2023 Player of the Year tournament. So here, I think this was maybe the first time that we didn't run the tournament purely on donations, right? Because the idea was, this is the Player of the Year tournament. It's the tournament that determines who the best player is. There ought to be stakes in that tournament. I think the previous years we had just taken donations as from the store or from individuals as a way to sort of put some blood in the water for the Sharks to circle for. Here, finally, we're buying in with entry fees. But still, first place only gets 100, and eighth place gets $5, and everybody else gets babkas. So, Richard, your tournament, not highly remunerated for what it was, I'm gonna say. What was your feeling about, like, well, first of all, winning the Player of the Year tournament, and then what you got for it, and maybe like then talking about how did it feel to become Player of the Year, like in terms of like how your self-perception as a player changed, or how you were treated differently on the server, that kind of thing.
Well, I mean, I got my name up at the top there on the on the right side of the screen. That's something. But I felt it was validating. I have a lot of views on how to build decks and draft that are divergent from, it seems, a lot of people, and sometimes it shakes my confidence. Also, as the leagues grew in size, I found myself like fading a bit into the background of like not contending very much, not keeping up in sealed, maybe feeling like I didn't, that I was just not at the same level as a lot of the players. But I do feel draft is a strength of mine. When I sit down, honestly, give me any 7 people on the server, and I feel like I got a good shot in a draft against them. In a sealed tournament where I know some people are going to practice and take a lot more time and scout my pool while they're playing me, there's certain edges I'm definitely giving up in sealed. But I think in draft, sit me down at the table and I feel good about my chances, and I think my track record has proven that, at least in the mega drafts, that's the case. So it felt nice, it felt validating and rewarding, and I'm happy to still have that title and still be hanging out there on the right side of the screen on Discord. So
They can't take it from you. So. All right. So, Zach, let's go to you now. Once again, here with your tournament, we also charged, in the 2024 Player of the Year tournament, we charged a sort of entry fee ticket. We tried to pay out a bit more evenly, so like it goes from $50 in first place down to $10 in eighth place, but everybody gets a little chunk for making top 8. However, for the first time ever, we attached a pretty significant prize to it, to the ultimate first place winner, which was you, which is that you got buyback for all the 2024 to 2025 Arena Gauntlet League tournament offerings. So that is probably $120 in in-store credit all told. What did it feel like to win that prize to become Player of the Year? And yeah, maybe you mentioned prior to the recording that maybe you wanted to hold court on this topic a little bit.
Yeah, so when I won first place, I was super ecstatic, right? Getting my name up there, just like Richard, and then getting all the leagues for free. Um, though what I found, I'm not complaining. I like to get my league entries for free, but I found kind of a small adverse effect where I feel less, or maybe it just came at a time. I had a move recently and no access to a computer and whatnot. But anyways, I felt a bit less stakes at play, even though it's only $10 of fake money because at this point I have enough store credit at a store halfway, well, all the way across Canada. Um, but I feel a little bit less stakes at play, so I care a little bit less about the sealed leagues, or maybe it's just a byproduct of the larger leagues. But I felt like it had a small effect there, where before, um, even though it was only $10, it motivated me a little bit more to get my money back. But now I'm like, I don't need to get top half. Though I guess it's just free money at that point, right? I'm getting the $10 back and whatever pricing. Okay.
I guess the question is, right, so once you've climbed Everest, what's left for you, right? You're at the top of the world, looking down.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you felt like
Uh,
this was demotivating for you.
Slightly. And it's interesting what you just said, because I just experienced that again at the pre-release this weekend. Um, yeah, a 3-round sealed pre-release at my local game store doesn't compare to Player of the Year 2024 or even the AGL um, anymore. But I don't know. It's just a matter of, I guess, like, I don't know, perspectives.
Well, I mean, I guess that you've gotten the highest accolades that our server can provide, except for maybe the first player to do back-to-back Player of the Year achievements,
Oh,
right?
that's another thing I want to talk about.
Yeah, please do.
Um, how also winning a Player of the Year tournament auto qualifies you for the next one is another thing that kind of de-incentiv de unincentivized, I don't know, me
De-incentivizes.
to
Yeah.
de-incentivized me to try super hard to re-qualify. But I'm looking forward to Player of the Year 2025, but actually, I think I've came full circle in the span of one league. So I skipped the last league, but now I'm back for Tarkir, and I'm motivated once again.
You're
So,
fresh.
yeah, take whatever I just said with a grain of salt,
Yeah.
but it did have a slight effect.
Well, I suppose that with what you're saying, you might think that winning's a bad thing, right? Because you just you give up on everything. But I hope that there's still enough challenge for you left on the server, and I think that maybe a lot of us who've been here for a while, like myself and Richard, right? We've at least me, I've seen my peak of interest in the game, and I've seen my peak of performance in the game. I'm going to say a few years ago now, right? And I'm kind of happy with that. I'm kind of okay with it, right? I put in an amount of work that I'm happy with, and I get the results that I'm more or less pleased with. I could do more. I could do better, but oftentimes there are other priorities that keep me away. Maybe that's, as you say, it's a good thing because it keeps me motivated, keeps me moving a little bit ahead. I've actually had some insights into my deck building and gameplay recently, which in Etherdrift League, actually, because I was doing very, very well, and I did very, very poorly, and I started thinking about things differently. I may have come up with a new technology. I think that's going to help me moving forward. So I'll keep that under my hat for now. Maybe
Go
for a
on.
future episode. Well, it's you'll have to wait for John's episode of Daily Draft. I'm going to reveal it later today on his vodcast. So that's a little tie-in, a little plug. All right, so given that, I mean, look, I guess what we're trying to do with the auto qualification for a subsequent Player of the Year is to a bit like imitate the old Pro Tour system, right? Where if you qualified, if you got enough points, you could sort of re-up without trying very hard, getting on the gravy train, I think they used to call it. And once you were on that train, you could stay on with less effort than it would take to sort of come out of nowhere and breach it again. Maybe this is something that we should re-examine, right? Maybe the old Player of the Year shouldn't be auto requalified. So let's talk about that. Now we're going to open up a more sort of general roundtable. Now that we've discussed both tournaments to our satisfaction and we've sort of looked back on them, maybe we can start talking about changes that you would like to see as two of our most invested players and our most celebrated players. When we go back to design Player of the Year 2025, what would you like to see that's new, or what would you like to see that's different than what you've seen in previous iterations? Once again, we'll start with Richard.
Well, if I can just also speak to a bit of what Zach was saying about that year that I spent as Player of the Year, not having to worry about qualifying for Player of the Year. I don't think it disincentivized me. It softened the blow of some of the poor results, but I do believe I would have got one of the invites just based on the amount of wins I had during that year. But I think I only made maybe one top 8 that year, maybe 2. But I sat out a couple leagues. There was one I dropped because the arena was bugging out all the time. And it's like, normally I would, in other cases, I'd be like, well, that's going to sink, that's going to hurt. But in that case, it was like, it was a nice little thing to have. And then going into for after the 2024 Player of the Year, I'm back having to qualify, and I felt like I did need to maybe try just a little bit harder at least. And I sat out the first league of the season, Duskmorn, and I played Foundations, got to 17 wins, and then we played Pioneer Masters, which I did end up getting the top 8 and winning. So now I'm back in it for next year. So I feel like I had a good shot to contend for an invite, even if I didn't win. But it felt nice. It softened the blow of the poor results at the very least. But going for next year, I mean, I know it's very specific, perhaps, but definitely if the pools are open, I think timers is something that was needed, because I remember being in matches where opponents were sideboarding for 8 minutes. I remember watching matches where sideboarding was 10 plus minutes. Turns were basically every turn was scanning an opponent's pool for what it could be, and the games were very, very hard to watch. I found extremely long and drawn out. And I know in the main league we don't do timers because we do want to keep it still a casual setting. We have a lot of new people coming to our server. We don't want them to feel pressed to have to play within a certain clock. But once you got to Player of the Year, I think everyone there has shown they're capable of being able to play within the clock. The clock is still pretty reasonable. It's not like we're really in a pinch there. So I had a very hard time watching the matches in the Player of the Year, just because of that. So I think the clock would be very, very useful. And I mean, any high level tournament does have a clock to it. So I would say that would improve the experience all around.
Yeah.
Just because the games took a long time.
So for the players,
even me, who doesn't usually pull up pools, I had the pool open. I was being as quick as I could, but I was, my turn lengths were probably longer on average than basically any other time that I've played Magic. So, I think it needs a little bit of speeding up if that's possible.
Okay, so your big takeaway is timers on for the sake of the players and the spectators. Zach, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I agree with what Richard just said. And to answer your question, um, uh, just as we were going through the 2024, well, there's already a few things that I mentioned, right? With like the buyback and the auto qualifications, though I wouldn't necessarily remove that. I think there's still overall positives. Um, and one thing I did notice with the 2024 was all year we're playing 60 cards sealed, and then the first round was of 6-pack 40 cards sealed. Um,
A little weird, right?
a little bit, but at the same time, I was just thinking how I'd like it to be like, I don't know, draft, and we're not a draft league.
So just
Um,
draft into mega draft into mega draft into mega draft.
I mean, day
Thumbs up.
two of Grand
And then
Prix is drafts,
Yeah. Yeah, maybe you're
but
right.
those don't exist anymore.
Maybe you're right, Zach. And look, this year, for the first time, we're expanding it to 36 players, and that works out. Sorry, did I say 36? I meant 32, right?
Great, 32 is
So yeah, so 32
divide
players
total by 8.
it's going to give us basically 4 draft pods. Then we cut to the top 4 of each of those pods, recombine them. We can do 2 more mega drafts in the semis, and then have a final mega draft in the end. So I think if an all mega draft player of the year tournament might be exciting, right? It might be more exciting for the viewers, and it might be more exciting for the players. Yeah, I think that's an interesting. I mean, it's going to take a lot of coordination because, as you know, getting 8 specific people together for a draft is always a logistical nightmare. We do it once every 6 or 7 weeks on the main server. It's always a hassle. My only worry is that we'd have to schedule 7 mega drafts in roughly a week or 2. So that's a lot, and we can't plan them ahead of time because we don't know who's going to make the next round. So, I mean, it's possible. It would just take some doing. It would take a lot of goodwill and cooperation on the part of our players.
No, but I do think, yeah, that's a lot of organization. I just thought it might be a little bit more skill testing, but at the same time, and less variance. But at the same time, we are a sealed league, so I think that keeping some element of sealed is important. And then one last thing, talking about your love of, I don't know, mashing 2 sets together off of a theme. Well, I'd really love to see more cube sealed, where you're able to make your own pool, your own set of cards. You know, you don't need that. I don't know, like all the bad cards that are in or all the busted cards that are in MH3. If you just want all the energy, you can put just all the energy together from all of Arena and then keep making the themes that you want to see. So
Yeah.
I'm a big advocate for Cube, and I think that would be a nice direction for the league.
Well,
I don't know if it's right for the Player of the Year tournament, but in general, I think that's one thing I'd like to explore more.
So I think it was the 2022 Player of the Year. We just did the Tinkerer's Cube. Right, we were going to do something called Arena Masters, but there weren't enough Master sets on Arena at the time to make it work. So we ended up basically using the Tinkerer's Cube. Now, with contemporary league design, we're being a bit more proactive in using Cube Cobra and making our own sets. Right, Jordan with Jack's help has basically just made the so many tournaments. What's it called? Tarkir Remastered or Tarkir Reforged, I think is what it's called. So it's basically taking Khans of Tarkir and juicing it up with cards that are meant to work well with Tarkir Dragonstorm, taking out a lot of what we call the cruft, right? The cards that don't do anything and aren't usable. So you cut out the cruft, and what's left is probably what should look like a fairly exciting cube. And you're going to see that as soon as you start taking losses in the first week of Dragonstorm. You'll probably see one of these all cube packs pop up, and you have to decide whether it is as good as or worse than the main set offering, and you'll have to choose which path you go down in Dragonstorm. So hopefully you'll see what we're capable of in terms of designing these. I think the more we flex this muscle, the more confident the LC will get with creating cubes, with creating our own sets, and basically running unique tournaments that aren't just like either like using directly WotC products or directly like flashback to older sets, but somewhere in the middle, like you're talking, like make a cube with intentionality that has a rationale that's accessible to everybody who uses it. Hopefully, that's something we can work on getting better at in the future. And maybe it's the right choice for something in the Player of the Year area. So we'll definitely keep our eye on that.
Yeah, I know it's a lot of work, but I think there's a lot of potential there.
Well, anything else that you want to put on the docket for improvements?
I trust the league committee. They're the ideas people. I'm not an ideas person. I love talking about Magic. I love drafting. I love chatting it up. But ideas, I trust the league committee. The things they've come up with are like astounding. Like I don't know where these things are coming from, but every time I'm just like the amount of care and work that is put into it is like astounding. Like it's just like I just have to take a step back and be like these minds are working amazingly. So I trust them. It's not always going to be perfect, but for the most part, they connect more often than they miss by a lot.
Well, thanks, Richard. I think they're going to appreciate hearing that. And I think at the same time, it's also important for us to touch base with our players and get ideas from them and see what the play experience is. And again, especially our most invested and celebrated players, which the Players of the Year are, right? So I think this is going to be a valuable video document for the LC to sort of reflect on. Hopefully they take the time and look through it and hear your ideas for the 2025 tournament. Zach, any final words?
At the end of the day, though, I'm happy with even just six pack. Just vanilla vanilla leagues. Another thing that I'd like to see, though, that I've thrown out there a few times, is the words aren't coming out, but seeded matches, if that makes any sense.
Tiered play? You mean?
The bot is nice, but I'd like if someone could just tell me who I need to play for the week.
You want someone to basically be your secretary. All right, Zach,
Yeah, exactly.
You're your matches when you have time to fit them in, sir. I guess that's I don't know what that would look like in terms of logistics or bot programming. So I'll leave that to Steves who know more about this than I do.
It's an idea I've thrown out a few times where you just like input into a bot how many mats you want to be seeded, and a bunch of people in the league can do so, and then it just generates out a list.
Well, the problem with that, right? Maybe why the idea hasn't caught on.
Coordinate with my person.
The idea hasn't caught on because basically part of the appeal of the tournament series is that you can play your matches whenever you like, and people find, I think, that if they, are basically constrained to play a certain subset of players, they don't find it as convenient as just like hitting up the bot when they're free and seeing who's around. So I think that for a lot of people, they'd lose the freedom and ease of play that they enjoy, and maybe also a little bit of the surprise. You never know who's hiding in that bot. What terrifying jack-in-the-box is going to come out and devour the match. So it's for me, that's always kind of exciting to kind of poke the bot and see who's inside. That moment.
I only post ! Challenge, so it's you never have to be worried about it being me.
There you go.
Anyways, for this league, I'll take open challenges, and I think I'll just openly LFM.
Just say, look, I'm the player of the year. You know who I am. If you want a piece of this, if you want the challenge of your life, come down and face me, Zach C, 2024 Player of the Year, if you have it in you, if you have the stones. I like that kind of smack talk. I think that's going to be good in Dragonstorm League.
And back to your counter argument. I know it's off topic, but yeah, you just shoot the person DM, and if the timing doesn't work, then you go into the bot, and it's one less.
Well, here's an idea, Zach. How about you just pick 5 people and you send them DMs? Isn't that the same thing?
That sounds so good.
Just do it. No one's stopping you. No one's stopping you.
Random
from
number
doing this.
generator.
No one's,
All right.
Random
I
number
have-
generator. Hey.
This
They're
is
gonna think I scouted them and I looked at their pool, and then they're gonna do the same, and then they'll only agree if it's favorable for them.
you're looking at basically you're making Steve make Tinder for matches or something, right?
Yeah, I would love that. Oh, and by the way, it's not that far off topic, because for the Player of the Year tournament, we had to do that. We had to round robin every week with the people in our pods and coordinate matches, and it worked.
Well, it worked in your year, but there were years where it didn't work. See, for example, the dispute between Damien and Cody Reyes, right?
Oh man.
Yeah, we talked about that in a previous edition of Leagues Behind. So that didn't work, right? So there are definitely opponents to round robin matchmaking, and who see the potential dark side or the inconvenience side of having to have people show up on time for their matches. But that's a story for another day. We're about to kick off Dragonstorm League. Congrats, Richard, for being chosen Con of the Teamer. I guess
For now.
You're pretty excited. Yeah, for now, until you have to defend at the end of week 1. Zach, where did you end up? What clan did you get assigned?
So I was with Mardu previously. I have the ride down emote.
Okay. So you're gonna keep riding them down, I guess. So we're on 3 different sides of this. I got poured back into Sultai for another humiliating series of defeats, I'm sure.
My condolences.
All right. So on a lighter note, going into the 2025 Player of the Year, so far, it's always been a Canadian winner, right? And I think it's always been a face-to-face shop player. 3 from Montreal, 1 from Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think Cody Reyes plays at the Toronto shop, and I think that Johnny, Richard, and yourself have all played at the face-to-face Montreal. I think, right? Was that you? Was that where you identify as your LGS? So we haven't had a non-face-to-face or a non-Canadian winner, but this year it's beginning to look like, with the introduction of our partner store in the States, and just the fact that like 70 to 80% of our players end up being from the US, this might be the first year where they storm the house. Do you have any sort of nationalistic thoughts about how the face of League is changing, or what this means for the future?
I mean, we got to pick it up. Like, I'm looking at the standings. It's like, I remember when I made top 8, I was like the only Canadian from Pioneer Masters, and it's we're not winning too many leagues very much, but we do have the Player of the Year. So Player of the Year has remained in the country, so we can at least claim that. But we gotta move ourselves up the standings here. We gotta get it moving, I think, for our country here.
I'll be interested to see how it all turns out. Gentlemen, thank you for your time. I really appreciate your insights, your suggestions, and all other things related to the previous iterations of Player of the Year. Best of luck in Dragonstorm, and take it easy. It's been real fun.
Thanks.
Thank you for having us, Chris.
Bye for now.